Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. My dad's spit landed on my sketchbook right in the middle. I jerked it back like it burned my hands. He watched the page soak up the insult. My throat tightened and I still did not move. That was the moment I knew dinner was a trap. I'm Mason, 28, and I walked into it anyway. I told myself I could handle one more family night. You know, that stupid hope that keeps showing up uninvited. I carried my sketchbook like a peace offering. It felt pathetic the second I stepped inside. Mom leaned on the counter and looked me over. Her eyes went straight past my face to my hands. No flowers. She flicked her fingers at the book. I opened my mouth, then shut it again. I was already losing, and we all knew it. Dad pointed at the chair across from him. It was not an invitation, it was a placement. I sat down and kept the sketchbook on my lap. My knee bounced like it had its own agenda. Dad's lips curled like he could taste my nerves. Mom slid plates around like she was performing. Every move felt timed for an audience. She checked her phone, then checked it again. My stomach sank because I knew who she was waiting for. The whole room held its breath for Lucas. I tried to speak first because silence kills me. I asked how their week was going, real casual. Dad stared at me like I asked for money. Mom answered with a shrug, then looked away. The question died on the table, and so did I. Flipped my sketchbook open, just enough to show something. A portrait I was proud of, clean lines and sharp eyes. Mom leaned in, then pulled back fast. "That's cute," she muttered like I was 6. Dad made a sound that was almost a laugh. I told myself not to react because reacting feeds them. I nodded like I agreed, like I was easy. That fake calm made me feel worse. It tasted like swallowing coins. Then Dad leaned forward, slow and deliberate. He spit again, right onto the portrait's face. Not an accident, not a cough. It was a choice, and he wanted me to see it. My hands went numb, then cold. I stared at the wet page and time stuttered. "What are you doing?" My voice came out thin. Dad wiped his mouth with his thumb like nothing happened. Mom did not flinch, not even a blink. She just said, "Don't start," like I was the problem. I felt my cheeks heat up and I hated it. I tried to laugh it off because I always do. It came out wrong, a sharp little burst. Dad's eyes narrowed like I had insulted him. He tapped the table once, a warning. My body went still, but my head kept screaming. "You bring that thing again," Mom said and sighed. She made it sound like I tracked mud inside. I wanted to ask what they wanted from me. I already knew the answer, and that scared me. They wanted Lucas to walk in and see me small. The front door opened and the air changed. Footsteps, quick and confident. Mom's face brightened like a switch flipped. Dad sat up straighter like a soldier. My stomach twisted because now the show started. Lucas walked in with a grin and a small bag. He barely looked at me before hugging Mom. Dad clapped his shoulder hard and proud. Lucas flashed his teeth at me, then glanced down. His eyes landed on my sketchbook and he paused. "Oh, you're still doing that?" He kept smiling. He said it like he was being nice. Mom laughed warm and loud like it was a cute joke. Dad leaned back satisfied like the room was balanced. I wanted to disappear and I hated myself for wanting it. Lucas dropped the bag on the counter with a thud. Mom opened it right away like she had permission. Inside was something shiny and official looking. Dad's eyebrows lifted and he let out this proud breath. Lucas watched me watch them and his smile tightened. I tried to stand and greet him like a normal person. My chair scraped loud in the sudden quiet. Dad's hand shot out and pressed my shoulder down. Not hard enough to bruise, just enough to control. I sat back and my pulse started racing. Lucas pulled out his phone and flicked through photos. He turned the screen toward Mom and Dad. They leaned in like the phone was holy. I caught words like offer and coach and network. Nobody turned the screen toward me, not once. Mom glanced at my sketchbook again, then at Lucas. "You should show him how it's done," she said. Lucas gave a small shrug like he was too humble. Dad chuckled and the sound made my skin crawl. I felt like a prop they forgot to remove. I wiped the spit with my sleeve, quick and quiet. The paper smeared and the portrait's face warped. My stomach lurched because it looked ruined. I shut the sketchbook slow, like closing a wound. Lucas watched my hands and his eyes stayed sharp. Don't be dramatic, Mom said like she read my mind. She reached over and tapped the cover with one finger. The gesture was gentle, but it landed like a slap. I swallowed hard and nodded because I do that. Then Dad leaned in close enough that I could not breathe. Hey. Tonight, he murmured, we talk about your attitude. His voice was low, like he was doing me a favor. I looked at Mom, hoping for anything. She avoided my eyes and fixed Lucas's collar instead. I knew I was trapped and dinner was still coming. My father slapped a folder onto the table before anyone ate. It skidded toward me and stopped at my elbows. My mother's fork stayed in the air like this was normal. Lucas leaned back and watched my hands, waiting. Open it, my father tapped the folder with 2 fingers. I kept my palms flat on the table like a hostage. My mother smiled without warmth and nodded once. Lucas's grin flickered like he knew the punchline. I lifted the folder and felt my pulse jump. The first page had my full name printed in bold. A signature line sat at the bottom, clean and hungry. I looked up and all 3 pairs of eyes stayed on me. What is this? I kept my voice steady, barely. My father pointed at the bottom line, not my face. My mother slid a pen across the table, slow. Lucas's knee bounced like he could not wait. It's simple, my mother held out her hand for the folder. I pulled it closer because instinct kicked in. She paused, then laughed like I was being silly. That laugh made my stomach tight and hard. I scanned the numbers and felt my throat clamp. The interest rate stared back, ugly and sharp. I flipped the page and saw Lucas's name near the top. My fingers went stiff like they forgot how to bend. So this is for him, the words came out flat. Lucas lifted his shoulders in a tiny shrug. My father spread his hands like the answer was obvious. My mother's eyes narrowed like I missed a lesson. You're finally useful, my father's mouth twitched as he spoke. I gave a short nod because my brain froze. Then my pride woke up and shoved me forward. I pushed the folder back and it stopped in front of him. My mother's chair scraped as she leaned in. Don't do this tonight, her voice stayed light, too light. Lucas picked at his napkin and avoided my eyes. My father's jaw tightened and the air turned heavy. I'm not signing debt for your favorite kid. The sentence sounded brave and I almost hated it. My mother's fingers pinched the bridge of her nose. My father's stare turned flat like a door closing. Lucas finally spoke, soft and careful. Come on, it's just a boost. He held his palms up. That word boost hit me like a slap. I watched him act humble and my teeth ground together. I asked what the money was for, exact details. My father waved toward Lucas like that was enough. My mother answered with a bright tone about opportunity. I pressed again and her smile snapped at the edges. Training, Lucas glanced at my folder, then at my face. He said it like I should already know. My father nodded, proud, like a judge granting custody. My hands curled into fists under the table, unseen. I tried a new angle because blunt refusal felt dangerous. I asked why they did not co-sign since they wanted it. My mother blinked, then looked at my father. He did not blink back and that silence was loud. Because you owe us, my father's voice stayed calm. My stomach dropped and my skin went prickly. My mother nodded like she was confirming whether. Lucas stared at his plate like he was innocent. I asked what I owed for and my voice shook. My mother's lips pressed thin, then she sighed. She started listing things in clipped bursts like a bill collector. I cut her off because I knew where it was going. You kept a roof over my head, I made it sound small. My father leaned forward and pointed at my chest. That roof cost money, his finger did not move away. Lucas watched the finger, then watched me waiting. I pushed my chair back a few inches. My mother's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Her grip was tight, calm, practiced. She smiled at Lucas like nothing happened, and that scared me. Sit, my father's voice dropped low. I sat because the room felt like a cage. My wrist throbbed under my mother's fingers. Lucas's eyes tracked the red mark and he looked pleased. My mother released me and slid the pen closer again. The pen stopped right by my knuckles like a dare. I did not touch it even when my hands twitched. My father exhaled slow like he was counting down. You're making this harder, Lucas tilted his head. He tried to sound like a friend and it made me angry. I asked him if he even wanted this loan. He paused too long, then gave a quick nod. My father leaned back and crossed his arms. My mother folded her hands and watched my face. They were not asking anymore, they were training me. I felt my mouth go dry, and I hated that tell. I reached for the folder, not the pen. I flipped to the last page, slow and careful. There was a section about late fees, nasty and strict. My heart beat hard because I could see the future. I set the folder down and stood up fast. My chair hit the wall in me with a hard knock. My father rose too, just as quick. Lucas stayed seated, like he wanted front row seats. "Where are you going?" My mother's voice stayed sweet. I took one step toward the hallway, then froze. My father moved between me and the exit, close. His eyes told me this was not finished. "I'm not your bank," the words came out rough. My father smiled, small and cold. My mother sighed like I broke her heart again. Lucas rubbed his hands together like he expected a win. My father reached for the folder and held it up. He shook it once like a threat with paper edges. "Sign it or don't come back." His voice stayed even. I stared at that signature line and something inside me cracked. Lucas leaned across the table and pointed at my chest. "You still got that scholarship letter?" His smile stayed fixed. My hands went still like my joints locked. My mother's eyes snapped to his face too fast. That one question cracked the room wide open. I forced a laugh and it sounded fake. "Why would I have it?" My voice came out thin. Lucas blinked like I missed a joke. He glanced at my father, then looked away quick. That little glance told me everything I needed. My father lifted his water glass and drank slow. He did not answer, not even a grunt. My mother cleared her throat and started stacking plates. She moved too fast, like she wanted noise. I watched her hands shake just once. "You told me he picked community college," Lucas shrugged. He said it like a neutral fact, not a knife. My stomach flipped because that was not true. I felt heat crawl up my neck hard. I looked at my parents and they looked past me. "Did you see it?" I asked Lucas, careful. He rubbed his thumb along his phone case. "I thought you threw it out." His eyes stayed down. My father set his glass down with a soft tap. The tap felt like a warning shot. I pushed my chair back, slow this time. My mother's head snapped toward the hallway. My father's stare tracked my feet, not my face. Lucas shifted like he wanted to follow. I walked anyway because I had to know. I moved down the hall and kept my breathing quiet. You ever get that cold focus, like a switch flips? My hands shook, but my steps stayed steady. I heard my mother whisper my name behind me. I did not turn around, not yet. I reached the door to the garage and yanked it open. The metal latch clicked louder than it should have. My father's footsteps hit the hallway, heavy and fast. My pulse jumped because he was coming. I slipped inside and shut the door halfway. I went straight for the old tool chest by the wall. My fingers fumbled the latch, then found it again. I flipped it open and started digging with both hands. Rags, a tape roll, random junk that meant nothing. I kept going because quitting felt like dying. "Stop rummaging," my father's voice cut through the crack. I ignored him and shoved deeper, heart hammering. My mother's steps stopped right outside the door. She did not come in, and that scared me more. It felt like they were watching from a safe distance. My fingertips hit paper, stiff and tucked under cloth. I pulled it free and saw my full name printed. My mouth went dry because it looked official. The top edge was bent like someone crushed it. I froze with it in my hands, breathing shallow. I tore the seal with my thumb, messy and fast. My father pushed the door open wider, too late. Inside was a letter, folded clean, then refolded wrong. The corner was darkened, like heat kissed it once. I felt my vision narrow to that scorched edge. My mother stepped into the doorway and lifted one hand. Her palm faced me like I was a barking dog. "Honey, let's not," her voice tried for soft. My father's face tightened and his eyes went flat. Lucas appeared behind them and his grin was gone. I unfolded the letter and the words hit hard. Accepted award, full tuition, dates, deadlines. My hands started trembling and I hated that weakness. I looked up and my father's jaw worked like he was chewing. Nobody rushed to explain and that silence felt guilty. "You hid this," the words came out low and sharp. My mother took a step forward, then stopped herself. My father lifted his hands like I was overreacting. Lucas stared at the paper like it might bite him. I watched his face, searching for anything real. "I never saw that," Lucas whispered, eyes wide. He sounded honest, which made it worse. My father snapped his fingers once, impatient. Put it away, his voice stayed calm, almost polite. I held the letter higher like a shield. My mother's lips pressed tight, then she tried again. We were protecting you, she smiled like that helped. I let out a short laugh, ugly and loud. Protecting me from what? Success, freedom, being gone. My father took one step closer, and I did not back up. He reached for the letter, slow and steady. I jerked it back, and the paper fluttered. His eyes locked on mine, daring me to defy him. Lucas shifted behind them, caught between us. My mother's fingers curled like she wanted to snatch it. You still want to do this? My father tilted his head. His voice was quiet, but the threat was clear. I stared at that scorched corner and felt sick. Because someone tried to destroy my chance once already. And now they wanted me to hand it back. My father lunged for the letter, and I jerked it away. His hand caught my wrist, and his grip tightened fast. I twisted free, but my skin stung where he held me. My mother stepped forward with her palm raised, like I was dangerous. Lucas stayed behind them, silent, watching my hands. Give it here, his voice stayed calm, almost bored. I backed up until my shoulder hit a shelf. The paper shook between my fingers, and I hated that. My mother tried a soft smile, then dropped it. Her eyes darted to Lucas like she needed him steady. I held the letter higher near my face. You buried this, the words scraped out of me. My father's mouth tightened, then he exhaled through his nose. He looked past me like I was a stain on the room. That look hit harder than any shout. My mother moved closer, slow and careful. We did what was best, her voice tried to soothe. I stared at her hand reaching, and I did not give in. Lucas shifted like he wanted to speak, then stopped. The silence turned thick like it had weight. Best for who? I asked, and my voice cracked. My father's eyes narrowed, and he angled his head. He took one step forward, then another, testing me. My back pressed harder into the shelf behind me. I felt boxed in, and it made me reckless. Lucas lifted his hands, palms out, trying peace. Can we talk in the kitchen? He kept his tone small. My mother latched onto that, nodding fast. My father did not move, not an inch. His stare stayed locked, like he was daring me to flinch. I slid sideways and got a sliver of space. My shoes scuffed the concrete, loud in my ears. My mother's fingers brushed my sleeve, then grabbed. I yanked away, and she recoiled like I hit her. She turned that recoil into a wounded face, right on cue. Don't you touch him, Lucas snapped, surprising himself. My mother froze, then forced a laugh that sounded wrong. My father's eyes flicked to Lucas, sharp and warning. Lucas shut his mouth and looked down. That tiny shutdown told me a lot. I stepped toward the door, slow, keeping the letter visible. My father blocked me with his body, chest square. You're not leaving with that, his voice stayed level. I swallowed and tried to keep my hands steady. The paper rustled, and it sounded like panic. I lifted the letter and read a line out loud. My voice shook, but the words were clear. Full tuition, housing, a deadline that already passed. My mother's face pinched, then smoothed like nothing happened. My father's eyes went cold because I made it real. You missed it, my mother sighed like I forgot to pay rent. I stared at her, and something inside me snapped open. I didn't miss it, I jabbed the letter toward them. Lucas looked up fast, and his eyes widened. My father shifted his weight, ready to end this. My mother crossed her arms and set her jaw. You were overwhelmed back then, she spoke like a therapist. I let out a short laugh, bitter and sharp. Overwhelmed by what? Getting out, being away, having options. My father's nostrils flared and his patience thinned. He took the letter's edge between two fingers. I pulled back, but he held on. For a second we both tugged, and the paper stretched. My mother gasped like I was tearing the family apart. Lucas stared at the paper like it was a live wire. Let go, my father's voice dropped lower. I did not, because pride took the wheel. I could feel myself shaking, and I hated the weakness. My mother stepped in, trying to wedge between us. Her shoulder bumped mine, and I stumbled. The letter ripped with a harsh sound. Not in half, just enough to hurt. My breath caught, and my eyes burned instantly. My father held his peace like a trophy. My mother looked relieved, like damage control worked. Lucas stepped forward and reached for the torn piece. My father moved it out of reach with a quick flick. Stay out of it, the command landed like a slap. Lucas's face tightened and his hands dropped. He looked at me, and guilt flashed across his eyes. I pressed my torn half to my chest. My voice came out loud before I could stop it. You stole my future. The words felt huge and messy. My mother's expression hardened, like she was done pretending. My father's mouth twisted, like he tasted something sour. My mother pointed a finger at the letter. That wasn't a future. Her tone turned sharp. It was a fantasy you would ruin. She did not blink. I stood there stunned because she finally said it. Lucas flinched like he heard her for real. My father stepped closer, invading my space again. You needed struck. Gior, he spoke like a principal. You needed a wake-up call. His eyes stayed flat. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked. Have you ever felt your voice just refuse to show up? I tried anyway, words tumbling out wrong. You didn't even tell me. I waved the torn half once. My mother shrugged like it was obvious. We redirected the money. The word redirected made me shake. Lucas's head lifted fast, like he did not expect that. What money? Lucas asked, quick and sharp. My mother's eyes flicked to him, then away. My father's jaw tightened and he stared at the wall. I watched Lucas's face change, confusion turning into dread. It felt like watching a curtain fall. My mother leaned on the doorframe, blocking the exit. Your college fund, she said it like a simple label. It covered your brother's needs. She nodded toward Lucas. Lucas's mouth opened, then closed like he could not swallow. My hands clenched and my nails dug into my palm. Lucas took a step back slow. I thought you paid for both. His voice came out thin. My father finally looked at him, eyes hard. We invested where it mattered. He did not soften it. Lucas's face went pale and the room tilted. I laughed once then stopped because it sounded ugly. So that was it, an investment choice like a stock pick. My mother's chin lifted, proud and stubborn. You weren't ready. She aimed that at me like a dart. My stomach churned and I almost retched. I pointed at Lucas, then at myself. So you needed me to fail. The sentence came out blunt. My father scoffed and that scoff felt practiced. No one needed you to fail. He lifted his hands. Then he added one line and it cut deep. You managed that. Lucas looked between us, breathing fast. You told me he didn't have offers. His voice cracked. My mother's eyes flashed and she straightened. We told you what you needed to hear. She did not apologize. Lucas's hands started trembling and he hid them in his pockets. I took a step toward my mother, anger dragging me forward. My father stepped in front of her, instantly protective. The move was automatic, like muscle memory. I stopped short because I was not trying to swing. Still, he looked at me like I might. You're acting unstable. My mother's voice went sweet again. There it was, the old trick, the label. I felt heat rush to my face and shame followed. Part of me wanted to fold just to end it. Another part of me wanted to break something. Lucas shook his head, fast and confused. This loan thing, he glanced toward the kitchen. Was that because of the fund? His question hit the air. My father's eyes slid away, and that was the answer. Lucas's shoulders sagged and he looked sick. My mother pressed her lips together, then spoke quickly. We're doing what we have to do. Her words came clipped. I stared at her and something in me cooled down. Not calm, more like numb, like frost on skin. That numbness scared me because it felt final. I tucked my torn half into my pocket, careful. My father noticed and reached out again. I slapped his hand away and the sound echoed. My heart slammed because I crossed a line. My mother's eyes widened and then she smiled sharp. There he is, her voice dripped with satisfaction. She wanted proof I was the problem. My father nodded like he just won a case. Lucas stared at my hand, then at his parents, horrified. I realized they were baiting me and I took it. My father pointed toward the kitchen, commanding again. Sit down. His tone left no room. I backed away instead, one step then another. My mother reached for her phone, quick and casual. That phone move told me she was ready to escalate. You calling someone? I asked, voice low. My mother tilted the screen away from me. Don't make me. Her smile stayed pinned on. Lucas lifted a hand toward her, pleading. She ignored him like he was furniture. I raised both hands, empty and visible. Fine, the word came out rough. I backed toward the door, watching them like predators. My father followed slow, like he had all night. Lucas stayed put, torn between us, eyes wide. At the threshold, my father paused and looked me over. You'll come crawling back, he spoke like it was fact. My mother nodded, already sure of herself. Lucas whispered my name, but it sounded scared. I stepped out anyway, and the cold air hit like a verdict. My phone started vibrating before I reached my car. I shoved it into my pocket and kept walking. Behind me, the door opened again, then slammed shut. I did not look back because I did not trust myself. I got in and locked the doors with shaking fingers. My mother's voice carried outside, sharp and bright. My father's steps hit the driveway, steady and sure. I started the engine fast, like speed could save me. The first text popped up while I backed out. "Come inside and apologize," the words sat there smug. Another message followed right after, longer. And worse. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and drove. At the first stop sign, I grabbed the phone again. My thumb hovered over a block like it weighed a ton. You ever hesitate over a button like it's a cliff? I blocked my father first, then my mother, then paused. Lucas's name sat there like a question mark. I almost blocked him too, just to stop the ache. Then my screen lit up with his call anyway. I let it ring until it died, then my chest went tight. I pulled into a gas station and sat there. My breathing came fast, then slower, then fast again. I stared at the torn scholarship letter on my lap. The ripped edge looked like a mouth that could not close. I flattened the paper with both palms on the seat. The words still read the same, like they did not care. I laughed once and it sounded mean in the empty car. Then I wiped my face hard because I hated the wet. I drove to my apartment and parked crooked. My legs felt weak when I climbed the stairs. Inside, I tossed my sketchbook on the bed and froze. My brain kept replaying my mother's smile, that sharp one. I grabbed a duffel and started stuffing clothes inside. Not neatly, not thoughtfully, just fast. A drawer stuck and I yanked until it popped loose. I moved like a thief in my own place. My phone buzzed again even after the blocks. New number, same tone. Answer the phone, the text felt like a grip on my neck. I deleted it, then my phone rang again. I answered without thinking, and that was dumb. My mother's voice spilled out like syrup over glass. "Sweetheart, you ran off." She kept it gentle, too gentle. I hung up mid-sentence and my stomach flipped hard. Another call hit right after, different number. I let it ring and the sound drilled into my ears. I threw the phone into the duffel like it was poison. The ringing muffled, but it still felt loud. I carried the bag out and drove to my friend Nate's place. He opened the door and took one look at my face. He stepped aside without asking for details. I walked in and realized my hands were still shaking. Nate pointed to the couch and set down a bottle of water. I took it and swallowed like I had not drank in days. He did not push, which made me want to talk. I pulled the torn letter out and laid it on the table. His eyebrows lifted, then his mouth tightened. "Is that what I think it is?" His voice stayed low. I nodded once and stared at the ripped line. Nate's jaw flexed like he was holding back words. "I need a clean copy," I heard myself say it fast. Nate nodded and slid his laptop toward me. My hands hovered over the keys, then froze. It hit me that I did not know who to ask first. I typed the school name, then stopped again. My brain tried to bargain with reality stupidly. Maybe it was fake, maybe I misread it. Then I remembered my mother's calm face, and that hope died. I sent an email to admissions with my full name. I asked for a record of awards and dates. My finger hovered over send, and I hesitated. Then I hid it because hiding never helped me. Lucas texted Nate's phone around midnight. Nate handed it to me without reading it. The message was short, almost shaky. "Please talk to me alone." My pulse jumped at the word alone. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Part of me wanted to ignore him forever. Another part wanted answers that did not rot. I typed one sentence back and my thumb hovered. "Tomorrow noon, public place." I sent it fast. Nate watched my face and said nothing. I set the phone down like it might explode. Then I lay on the couch and barely slept. At noon, I sat in a crowded coffee shop and waited. I picked the table near the window, not the back. My eyes kept checking the door, then the street. I hated how alert I felt, like danger was normal. Lucas walked in with a cap pulled low. He spotted me and stopped short, like he expected a trap. He approached slow and sat down without smiling. His hands stayed in his pockets, clenched. "I didn't know," he blurted it out fast and raw. I watched his face for performance because I learned to. His eyes were red around the edges like he barely slept. That look made my anger wobble. Then why ask about the letter? I kept my tone flat. Lucas flinched and rubbed his palms on his jeans. They kept telling me you quit. His voice broke on quit. I stared at him and my stomach turned. He slid his phone across the table toward me. A text thread sat open, filled with my parents' spin. I scrolled and felt heat crawl up my neck. Every message painted me as weak, reckless, ungrateful. Lucas snatched the phone back like he regretted it. I thought I was helping you, he swallowed hard. That line hurt because it sounded true. I stared at my coffee and felt my hands start shaking again. I'm not asking you to choose, my voice came out rough. Lucas stared at me like he wanted permission to breathe. I don't know what to do, his words fell out. I nodded. Dead once because yeah, same. My email reply came the next morning. I opened it on Nate's couch and felt my mouth go dry. They confirmed the award and the date it was issued. They attached a PDF copy, clean and official. I stared at that attachment until my eyes burned. A part of me felt relief, which made me angry. I should not need proof to believe my own memory. Still, that PDF felt like a weapon I could hold. That afternoon, another unknown number called. I answered with my voice low and controlled. My father's voice hit my ear like a punch. He did not introduce himself because he did not need to. You embarrassed us, his words came out sharp. I pulled the phone away, then pressed it back. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I asked him one question, calm and simple, why? A short silence followed, then a breath. You would have wasted it, he sounded sure of himself. I felt my chest tighten then go numb. He talked like he saved me from myself, and that broke something. I told him I had the school's confirmation now. He laughed once low and mocking. That won't change who you are, the cruelty sounded casual. I ended the call, then blocked the number without blinking. 2 days later, my manager pulled me aside at work. He kept his voice quiet, but his eyes looked worried. There's a man outside asking for you. I knew who it was before he finished. I walked to the front and saw my father through the glass. He stood there with his arms crossed, steady as a statue. My palms went damp, but my feet kept moving. I stepped outside and the cold air hit my face hard. He held up the torn half of my letter. He had kept it because of course he did. You're making me look bad, his tone was flat. I looked past him at the parking lot, scanning for my mother. She was there, sitting in the car with the engine running. Her eyes stayed on me through the windshield. I felt my stomach dip because it was a team effort. My father stepped closer like he owned the space. Come home, he pointed at the car with one finger. I took one step back because my body remembered too much. No, the word came out calm, and that surprised me. His eyes narrowed and his mouth tightened. He raised his voice just enough for people to hear. You're ungrateful, the word hit like a label they loved. I felt the old shame try to rise then stall. I looked him in the eye and did not look away. A coworker passed behind me and slowed down. My father noticed and lowered his voice again. You owe your brother, his tone shifted smoother. I almost laughed because the script never changes. I pulled out my phone and opened the PDF email. I held the screen up close to his face. That was mine, my voice stayed steady, almost cold. His eyes flicked over it, then he scoffed. He reached for my phone fast. I jerked it back and pocketed it. My heart kicked hard because the impulse scared me. My father's face hardened like patience had run out. Give me that copy, his hand hovered near my pocket. I stepped back again and raised my voice this time. Do not touch me, the words cut clean through the air. My father froze because witnesses changed the game. My mother stepped out of the car and walked over. Her smile appeared instantly, like a mask snapping on. Sweetheart, let's talk privately, she angled her body toward the car. I did not move because that car felt like a cage. I'm done with private talks, my voice shook but it held. My mother's smile cracked for half a second. My father stared at me like I betrayed him. I realized they were both waiting for me to fold. Lucas pulled into the lot right then, like bad timing. He got out and walked toward us, eyes wide. My mother's face lit up with relief, like reinforcements arrived. My father's shoulders relaxed, like the wind was back on. Lucas stopped beside me and looked at our parents. His eyes flicked to my face, then to the door behind me. "You're doing this here?" His voice sounded stunned. My mother reached for his arm and he pulled away. My father turned to Lucas and spoke fast. "Tell him to stop acting like this." The demand came out sharp. Lucas stared at him, then shook his head once. I saw the messages. His voice stayed low but steady. My mother's expression flashed, then settled again. "You don't understand." She tried soft again, like always. Lucas stepped back, putting space between them. "I understand enough." His words landed like a door closing. My father's face tightened and he looked at me again. "You're poisoning him." His voice rose, bitter and loud. I felt heat rise in my face, but I stayed still. My manager opened the front door and watched from inside. I pointed at the door, then at the parking lot. "This is my boundary." My voice shook, but I kept going. "Leave or I call the police." Saying it felt unreal. My mother's eyes widened, then went hard. "You would do that to your own family?" I sharpened. I stared at her and felt something settle in my chest. "Yes." The single word came out clean. My father's mouth opened, then closed like he could not believe it. He stood there for a long second, frozen. My father's eyes burned into mine, trying to bend me. My mother grabbed his sleeve and tugged once, frustrated. They turned and walked back to the car without another word. Lucas stayed behind, breathing fast, hands shaking. He looked at me like he wanted to apologize for existing. "I'm sorry." The words fell out small and broken. I nodded once because my throat was tight again. I did not hug him, and that still stings. I just handed him the torn half I kept. He took it like it weighed something sacred. Then he whispered, "I'll fix what I can," and walked away. That night my phone stayed silent for the first time. I sat on Nate's couch and stared at the clean PDF. I forwarded it to myself twice, just to be sure. My finger hovered over one last block, then pressed it anyway. I went to bed and woke up without dread for once. Not happy, not healed, just lighter. I still hear my father's voice sometimes, sharp and certain. But now it fades when I look at that letter whole again.